Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to host Priya Muku Gora, a, a very seasoned information security, compliance, data privacy, and quality professional. And today we are going to talk about Gen AI because we are at an era where AI has invaded our lives in all aspects. So it is also paramount that we convene to explore the ethical, societal, and technical implications of this transformative technology. Over the next few minutes, we are going to talk about various aspects. Especially, we would, you know, have conversations around development, examine the key considerations, and also offer insights as to how we can navigate this terrain with integrity and foresight. So, this discourse, we aim to illuminate pathways as to how we can harness the potential of Gen AI for the betterment of society while safeguarding against the potential risk which continue to evolve. And I will be failing in my duties as a moderator if I do not introduce Priya. Priya has over 18 years of experience, and she has started her career in software development and taken on various responsibilities. And for me, the highlights are information security, compliance, data privacy, quality, and I would like to mention quality excellence, right? And then also GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. And she has also been part of global operations team. She has excellent people skills and strategy development. Her experience or expertise, I would say, is now focused on data privacy, information security, and the new kid in the block, Gen AI. How do we adopt? And she definitely has a long list of certifications to back her up her experience. So ISO 27001, I would say the series of ISO 27001, then data privacy, project management, then ITIL, and the list goes on, right? So without further ado, Priya, thank you so much for taking time to have this discourse with me.
Thanks,
So,
Sujit. It's all my pleasure.
thank you. So, I mean, we've been having these side chats about AI, ML, and I guess today everybody is trying to adopt AI in different ways, and very especially the generative AI. So, could you just talk us through what is this all about? What is Gen AI, and why we should be talking about responsible AI? Priya?
I think GenAI is indirectly it was there from the time more of digitization happened. I think the buzz more started with ChatGPT. That's how it came to the masses. But before that, there were elements of GenAI already available. It's not that they were not available, and we, at least security professionals, privacy professionals, know about it. They were available. But with ChatGPT, it changed the landscape. It got into every household. Kids know it, seniors know it, everybody knows about. And I think the main aspect is with every technology that has ever come, in the long journey of our career, we have seen everything was on prem, then we went on cloud, then DevOps, then privacy also came in last 7, 8 years, before 7, 8 years. I think every time a new thing comes, there is a buzz. There is no doubt about it. And more we digitize, and now we are more digital. Everything is most of the organizations are on cloud. These aspects do play. But if you ask my perspective of generative AI, I think to me as a compliance person, it's exactly same the way it was at GDPR. It was new. We were not aware what needs to be done. The first thing for the compliance team was set the boundary, set the boundary, set the boundary. Exactly the moment now we think of generative AI projects in the organization, the first thing is with, is there any act? No. By the time Act recently came, it was not there. What should we do then? The first thing is set the boundaries. Boundary of one, as an organization, what do you want? That is very important, the intent, what kind of a use cases you want to see, because there will be categorizations of risk. So I think irrespective the technology, irrespective of the new things come, I think it always picks up to those things like in GDPR, when we are looking at data, we were told that, okay, tell me what is high risk, medium risk, like, and what similarly, exactly the same. The moment we are going with Gen AI, the moment we are working on a project, POC, the folks come to mind and they ask that let's go and let's see what kind of a risk is associated with it. So I think the basics always remain same. The buzzwords change, but as a compliance professional, I can assure you that the basics to me is like going again, looking at a use case, understanding it from data perspective, flow perspective, and then see what kind of a risk is associated with it.
Absolutely. So, Priya, typically when we talk about mission, vision statements, and most organizations would highlight one of the key objectives to maintain integrity, right? It's usually in the mission statement. But when you're really looking at operations, uh, be it a salesperson or a technical person, they would never use the word integrity, right? So it's all bound to service level agreements. But for the first time, we are hearing the word responsible, responsible use of AI. Why are we using that word?
Yeah, I think, and it is good, Sujit. I think this is a good question that, earlier, whatever we talked about before this, in terms of GDPR, when we move to cloud, from prem, et cetera, all new technologies came. Responsible word, it is still CIA word. People know that, this is a CIA word and we need responsible people were not using, because I think most, even everybody understands the kind of risk associated now, because we have seen it. It's not that somebody said it, hey, I don't know, it's not possible. We know it is possible. We have seen it is possible. So now, as a human sector, it is very important for all of us as as an organization, as a country, as a world together, to see how responsibly we use this AI. Because at the same time, it should benefit us. It should benefit our customers, our end users. But at the same time, there is a lot of responsibility in terms of users. For example, when we work on GenAI project, everybody is a user in that case. How responsibly, and we are kind of trusting their data with us, how responsibly kind of we are using a new technology, but at the same time, we need to ensure that, their integrity is kind of still maintained. I think that was the core. And when I talk about GenAI responsible, I think every organization is coming up with, if you ask me whatever white papers I looked at, I think it is talking about, like, whenever you do a Gen AI project, it should be reliable, it should be secure, there should be some accountability set on it, governance, it should be human centric, and it should be transparent, and explainable. If you actually ask me, that is for everything. But it's just that we are trying to deliberately put the focus on here. For example, for us, what we did is, for all the projects, that GenAI projects, we are kind of going and assessing them. One, what kind of a risk associated in, and they can't go ahead and work till they don't kind of get a risk assessment done by us. By that we know, we give a kind of a risk score to them, tell them, okay, this is your risk score. And in case we feel that this can be done differently, because there are ways, to be very honest, it's not that everything is open. You can kind of still align it, have a subscription version, and keep it a safer version. So the idea, as you rightly highlighted, for the responsible, why is it critical now? The idea is for the end user to know that how much risk it's going to be, that for end user, and just identifying that, and accordingly, kind of being a bit cautious about it.
Absolutely. So, Priya, you brought in a very interesting point. The point what I'm talking about is you said risk. Now, when we look at the various standards, especially the ISO 27001 22 version, the latest version, they're specifically talking about risk assessment, right? There are two
Yeah,
parts to
yeah,
it: risk within the projects and the risk how you manage the project.
yeah, yeah,
So, so that's, I guess, is a very key point in terms of adopting Gen AI, right, or
yeah,
generative AI
yeah,
to be more
yeah.
responsible. So you did briefly mention about accountability and various other aspects. If you were to give a few tips for the people who are listening into this conversation, where should they start in terms of building a governance framework? Can they live with
I
what
think
they have, or do they need to tweak it? Priya?
No, I think we all of us need. You know why? The first step to all of us, and I think most of the organization have done that already, but is having the committee. The first thing is, you know why? Because there is no law and regulation around it. Now there are people who have seen the journey, they have seen different aspects of technology growing. At least have some people from different areas. They can be from SME, from technology perspective, SME from solution perspective, legal there, infosec there, and actually some management representative. Create a committee. That is the first one, and then make sure whatever use case or POC you are doing it in an organization, it gets approved by this board, because now they have folks with respect from different aspect. One is looking from only technology perspective, one is looking from legal perspective, one is looking from compliance and infosec perspective. What is there is management also with respect to intent. It always ends off intent end of the day. So when you have this kind of a mixture, the first point is, I think the start point for any organization to start is create a committee with a collaboration of these groups, and this will help ideally to kind of you'll be at least secure in terms of ensuring that all the aspects of GenAI they have been assessed, and there is a committee who has approved it after due deliberation, and then you are at least free. They will give you guidance in terms of every aspect, what needs to be done, maybe technology solutions, maybe meeting compliance, maybe covering legal aspects of you. At least when you are out and when you are working on that, and the first part, the critical part has been taken care, because now that trust is there, that governance is there. Okay, things are in place in this project and it can go ahead. I think that is the main start point that everybody should start with.
Absolutely. That's I think everybody should take note of, because for me, from what I heard from you, is I would call this the new normal. Why is it new normal? In the traditional way of working, we do have steering committees, we do have these different roles, but they have a different objective, right? That is just to look at the
Exactly.
risk side of it. But here, this committee has
Exactly.
to get into it. They have to dive deep into the subject and understand what's the data which is going to be used, how it's going to be used, what is the expected outcome, who is going to be
Exactly.
accountable, how do you ensure
Exactly.
integrity, how do you ensure brand reputation. So I guess putting
Exactly.
all these things together, that word responsible use makes sense, isn't it?
Exactly. And
So
and
the other
yeah,
question I had,
sorry.
sorry, go ahead, Prima. Go ahead.
So I think that is what the committee is about, responsible AI. Because various aspects of
Absolutely.
responsible area, they take care of that. Different individuals, they pick up those aspects, and then this governance is created, and that is in the end what is you call as responsible AI.
So typically, I mean, this is something which I keep hearing from the previous generation or the older generation. They say, "80 people, for them, as long as it works, it's good. You make it work,
Yeah.
right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Whether
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
would make it work within the framework or outside the framework, it doesn't matter as long as it works, right? So I guess
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
if you go back to our earlier days, we would say, don't switch off that server as long as it
Yeah.
works. Let it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So true.
So
So
I
true.
guess
Yeah.
that viewpoint has to change now, right? So we need to
Yes.
go
Yes.
back to the
Yes.
drawing boards and start looking at it.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, can you also, tell us, okay, while organizations are taking these steps, uh, would AI or Gen AI be regulated in the future? Right. I mean, we are hearing the European Union has, come out with an act, and various other countries are doing it. How would it have an impact on the organization? I mean, you can compare with GDPR, and maybe, we can have that conversation around that. Go ahead, Priya.
Yeah, if you actually look at it, Sujit, if you actually look at the glimpse of it, it's actually GDPR only. Because what as you rightly highlighted, end of the day, whenever we start on new things, whenever we have already started committees, for governance, we have committees. In case we want to roll out process, a bigger process, we have different roles. People have, end of the day, you can call that committee. Similarly, if you look at EU Act, what they have suggested that whenever you look at a use case, look at it from the perspective of risk. See that yes, one this you can't do this. For example, you are monitoring people, etc., and kind of manipulating that. That's categorize the use case. That is what EU is saying. So, for example, when we started with GDPR, it was like, okay, categorize the kind of personal data based on where it is stored, how it is stored, how it is passing, what is the flow. Similarly, for GenAI, if you exactly see what EU Act is saying, it say you identify the risk. First, if it's unacceptable risk, it is like you can take it likelihood of a risk, or if it's a medium risk, it's a high risk. They have categorized it into 4 categories. Exactly, these are the 4 categories that were in GDPR. So if you correlate to it, end of the day, it's again same. It's a new thing. So what expectation is before you start the new thing? It's always you assess the what kind of a thing you are getting into. Assess that, identify what is risk there in for you, and then take a call. If you look at everything, I think that is a basic human nature also, to be very honest. These technology, they may come tomorrow. Tomorrow we may have quantum also coming in. This will not end. But always idea is the first thing that management expects is what is the risk? What is the risk? What is the business risk? So irrespective what I want to kind of put in a point, I think the buzzword is there for GenAI, but I think from compliance perspective, I really don't see it a very big deal. Even when there was no EU Act, it recently came out. Before that, we already started looking at risk of the use cases, started giving them kind of a risk categorization. I think that is inherent to a compliance and risk person whenever a new thing comes. And then that gets converted into a law. As I said, for EU, now they are saying in case you want to do this kind of a project, these are the categorization, and you categorize it and then submit it. But groundwork, I can assure, is always same. Always same. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, a couple of additional things which I just want to share with the audience. I think the US also has come out with guidelines. So
Yeah.
they've also asked the platform providers to monitor the models which are being used, whether that's being used responsibly. And if it's
Yeah.
being used for malicious purposes, then it is the onus is on the platform provider to report it to the relevant authorities. So uh, I'm going to ask you another point. This is regarding the data again, right? So we've been talking about data classification, tagging, labeling for a long time, right? For
Yeah.
those organizations which have adopted, ISO 27001 and various other frameworks, data classification was the core. Now, would you see, right? This is a 2 or 3 part question. Would you see it as a challenge for those organizations which have not consciously adopted best practices for data management or data governance, right?
Absolutely. I think, Sujit, the problem, what is no problem, but what I can tell you by my experiences, we have not covered the problems of previous new thing that has come up. We have not kind of completely kind of outgrown it, worked on it, closed it, and now it is stabilized. Before that, a new thing comes, and we forget the past thing. Why I'm saying this, for example, you kind of highlighted a very important point of data classification. This is not new. This is older concept, and now there are tools available for data classification. In case, if you ask me as a review, when I go to forums and when I talk to a lot of my industry colleagues, most of the time they say, what is the problem? Data retention is a problem. Data classification is the problem. Because we create that, but maintaining that data classification, doing it once, then tracking it regularly and managing it, that's a bigger risk. That's a bigger, I'll say that it is altogether a different aspect. Till you don't automate it. There are tools available which will automatically integrate it. You will categorize it. It will integrate based on your new asset and kind of categorize it into data classification. I think most of the organization, I can assure you, are not at par with respect to data classification, but it is a key. You know why? Because I think it is important to understand the security and even privacy controls. They change with the data classification. Ideally, what we classify as low, it's not necessary to put those stringent controls on that low classified data, but we need to put at very severe or very high. But and in case tomorrow, and now we are more prone to outages and disasters and natural calamity, etc. I think, and we have seen that with Gora, etc. And it's a changing world and it's a fast changing world. I think it is more important this time for organizations to look at data classification because tomorrow, in case they have to choose, it should be very clear to them that this is high and this is critical to me and this is what I need to prioritize first. So this is important even with respect to GenAI. This is all correlated, as I said. But the point I'm saying is in industry, we have not kind of worked on the previous aspects where we still are, a lot of organizations are kind of still trying to see how they can improve on data classification, data retention. Everybody is talking about that. But at the same time, we jumped into a new thing and we are trying to put a framework around it. But as I said, the basics need to be in place, and then on top of that, new technologies, new things can keep emerging. It is always, you don't have to look at them. It gets easy. Why? Because you don't have to look at legacy issues. Then at least you have a platform, you have a stabilized platform. You just add a layer on top of that. It's still easy. But every moment, if we have not cleaned up our base, and then we are layering it with another things, it will crash one day. That is for sure.
Absolutely. You did mention about data retention. That was my second part of the question.
Okay. Yeah.
How important is it to have a lot of data to do Gen AI? Is a lot of data required to train models, or can we start with what we have? What are your thoughts on that, Priya?
Yeah, so just we can. Why I'm saying is, see, most of the organizations are on cloud platform, and I can assure you, some are thinking of going back to on-prem. It's kind of
Yeah.
security measures on cloud. It's like everyday learning. But jokes apart, um, we, even on cloud, it is a public and it can be a private one. Even with GenAI, for example, AWS, Azure, they have come up with subscription model where you can kind of tenant it, you can kind of segregate from that organization whatever they're doing, and that will not get integrated in open source or the journal word data that they say. Whatever you do in that container, in that piece, in that tenanted place for you, that stays there, that doesn't get integrated in the testing aspect of it. There are ways, and I can assure you, most of the organization, rather than directly going on to open source, they are buying these subscriptions where they are getting a piece of cloud only for them, and they are training it for the organization purpose, for the customers, and at least that gives them a surety that this piece, whatever we are putting in this container for our organization, is not getting integrated in the outer world, and it's not getting model is not getting trained based on this data. That is there, and it's not that everybody is using open. This comes with a cost. There is no doubt about it, but I think. Mature organization, they know that they can't go with the open one, because the kind of data, as you rightly highlighted, it can be organization, it can be any data, it can be employee, customer, anything. Anybody can use GenAI for improvement. But in case you have those tenants and segregated cloud environment for you, it's perfectly fine. I think that's how most of the organizations are doing it. On top of that, you add a governance and a compliance just to see, other basics met in terms of those security aspects, compliance aspect. You just kind of look at those flavors, and we are good to go.
Absolutely. So the points which you just mentioned in terms of having your own space to use your own data and not expose it to open source or to public environment, it's also being responsible about the way you handle,
Exactly.
use,
That's the first step.
store
That's the
data,
first step.
right? So,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
when we look at the tenets of data privacy, it clearly says that you use the data for the purpose it has been acquired, and
exactly,
retain it for the period which is required. And
exactly,
otherwise, you're
exactly,
governed by a law where you need to keep it indefinitely for a particular purpose. So all
exactly.
these elements have to go in. So what I'm hearing from you is, while the word responsible AI, generative AI are buzzwords, but the essence of the subject or the way it would be used in an organization, nothing has changed. It's
Exactly.
just that we have to go back and ask ourselves, have we adopted the best practices in the way
Exactly.
we govern the data? So,
Exactly.
Priya,
Exactly. And I think
go ahead.
certification teach you that, Sujit. You know why? If you look at certifications without naming them, I think they all talk about what is your organization's objective, business objective. Are your goals aligned with it? Now, today, all of our organizations, they have business objective with respect to kind of going into market, competing for AI. This is a business objective, right? Now business objective changes, and we all have to be kind of acceptable to that. That is how business works. End of the day, what needs to be done in order to meet that business objective, that is all certifications from the, I can assure you, from actually last 15 years I'm hearing, when an auditor comes, they got talk about what is your business objective, are your goals aligned with that. It's exactly the same. Now the business has changed, it has moved towards AI. So what is your business goal in going ahead with the AI, looking at different ways we can kind of help our customer and end users. But at the same time, what are our goals associated with that? And all those goals further drill down so that we can meet that business objective. Now, if you look at any aspect of any new work, that's how it is always structured. Business objective, you set the goals, and based on that goals, you set the KPIs, and it will be it will be through a committee for different departments. Some will be for HR, some will be for business, some will for society. We all come together and make that business more successful. I think if you have that basic understanding, I think it's trust means always same. It's always same.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it has evolved. Our conversation has evolved onto different aspects. And the last few points which you're talking about, the business objective, the goals, also mean that the organization is responsible the way they use this technology,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So that they get the benefit to the stakeholders. And
Yes.
you also spoke on the certification, right? At the end of the day, the auditors, there are different types of audits, and one of them is to, provide assurance that the controls are in place and it meets the objectives. And there are other audits which actually, demonstrate whether the practices which you have within the organizations are in aligned to the best practices. And I'd also like to probably talk a little, if we can, on the standards relating to AI or AI adoption. I think ISO has also come out with a standard for AI adoption in organizations.
Yeah.
So I would assume that the platform providers would have already aligned their practices
Yes.
to those best practices.
Yes.
So
Yes.
those
Yes.
people who are going to leverage those platforms would at least have part of their work already done as part
Yes.
of the
Yes.
shared responsibility.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
all what the organization will have to do is their part of the side,
Yes.
right? To build their governance framework, ensure key people are involved, set up those committees, set up those procedures,
Yeah. And
and
especially data. They need to, that service provider will not be able to kind of help it. As I said, it is more on intent, more on knowing how much risk you can take. And that is a management call. We, as an organization, from risk and compliance perspective, can tell that, oh, this is more risk, and these are the risks associated with it. But end of the day, it's management decision. So I think intent of having that business, and at the same time, intent how this is going to be a risk, and having, then taking a conscious call. So it's more on intent, I'll say. And then highlighting, sometimes it may be highlighting to customer also that, this is a challenge or this is a risk that we see. So I think, as you rightly highlighted, and I'll also talk about that, it's not that it's just not one way. I can assure you, in security questions, privacy assessment questions, now we are receiving GenAI questions with respect to responsible framework, what kind of a questions. In fact, in the RFPs that we receive, now we are seeing GenAI questions. They are, even if they don't have to kind of get that work done with us, but still in RFPs and all, they want to understand companies' maturity with respect to GenAI. Will they be able to handle the different aspects of responsible AI when we talk about transparency, non-bias, all those areas? And it's just that they want to see that as an industry practice, as an industry, as an organization, how mature it in the organization is in. So from past 2-3 months, I have been receiving questions in assessments, in RFPs, even in contracts. So they are not getting that work done with us, but they are still putting a contract and caveat that we may work. And these are our Gen AI, kind of clauses that we want you to address. So, as I said, it's all integrated. It's all, customer is aware, we are aware, but at the same time, compliance, legal, technology, business, they all need to come in hand, just to set that framework and give a confidence to the user that these things are in place for us. Yeah.
excellent. So what I'm hearing from you is it is happening much faster than we could actually
Yeah.
comprehend. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess the organizations will have to regroup and
Yeah.
start delving into these specific areas and ask themselves, okay, what do we do
Yeah.
from here on? So Priya, I
Yeah.
mean, in closing, what would you want to share with the viewers, the listeners, as to a few takeaways from them?
Yeah, I think I talked about it some time back. I was meeting some of the college law students, and they were really curious about it. I think artificial intelligence is there, but there is always a human intuition, and we always know what is wrong or right. We talk about the word responsible AI, but end of the day, it's all of you knowing that as a intent, as a human intent, this is right, this is wrong. This is where it can kind of be a very problematic for the end users. So, if you ask me, one, whatever technology new comes, I think. We don't have to kind of be a, very, very kind of, we don't have to see it, oh, what now? We don't have a regulation. It always starts from basics. We always have basics. And if you have right basics in place, it's just adding layer on that. So my first suggestion is keep your basics strong, and know what are the areas that you are not strong in, know the areas you are not strong in. And when you move to a new area, for example, Gen AI, responsibility, don't forget those areas that, still are not that hard. You keep on working on them, because end of the day, when the new framework will come, it has to be aligned with that existing one. So that is the key. What I see a problem, and when I talk to my industry colleagues, is they say my previous issues with respect to operation, creating a framework, or a lot of things were not done, and now I'm working on a new thing. I don't have a bandwidth to close on that. It is to be communicated to management that you can't just leave one part incomplete and start anew. End of the day, they are all part of an ecosystem. They have to be closely coordinated. You need to highlight that risk in case we don't close on that piece. Eventually, we may do this, but it will never be successful. I think that is the key. I like to talk to all the industry please and all the people that who are hearing this.
Absolutely. I'm in total agreement with whatever you just shared. Right.
Yeah.
So as we come to the conclusion of this conversation, throughout this discourse, we discussed various aspects, and I'd like to underscore the points which Priya raised, especially with respect to ethical, societal, and technical considerations. I think moving forward, it is imperative for stakeholders to collaborate, effectively prioritizing transparency, accountability, and inclusivity in all their endeavors. In other words, in all your endeavors. By adhering to the principal practices and engaging in ongoing dialogue, and I think there is no way out. We got
Yeah,
to have a
yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
We can only navigate the evolving landscape of artificial intelligence with integrity and ensure that Gen A serves as a catalyst for a positive societal impact.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I
Priya,
think that is the key. Yeah.
absolutely. So, Priya, thank you so much for taking time and sharing your wealth of experience. And in my mind, I would like to bring you back and probably talk on specific areas and where GenAI can be used, maybe from a compliance perspective, maybe from a security perspective, and how it can be used in a responsible manner. So I look
Yeah, yeah.
forward to having you in a future conversation. So
Sure,
at this
Sujit.
moment, I would
All
like to
pleasure mine.
thank
Yeah.
you.
It was
Thank you
pleasure
so
talking to
much
you, I
for
thought.
Thank you so much for being part of the CISO Circle conversation, and have a great day. See you soon.